5 Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre. Importance of the poet. Dilip Purushottam Chitre was born on 17 September 1938 at Baroda, Gujarat. He was a celebrated bilingual poet or translator with a remarkable work in Marathi and English. His versatile creativity extends to painting, filmmaking, and his notable contribution as a magazine columnist. He received the prestigious Sahitya Academy Award, both for poetry as well as for his well-known translation work Sej Tuka, popular abhangs by Sant Tukaram. He had started translation of literary work of sants in Marathi at age of 16. He died on 10th December 2009 at Pune, Maharashtra. Now, some important things about the poem. Father Returning Home focuses on a certain individual or commuting father returning home from work in the Indian city of Mumbai, although it could be any large city anywhere in the world. The poem Father Returning Home is taken from Traveling in a Cage. Dilip Chitre was a painter, filmmaker, as well as poet. Taps into his own father's biography and creates a powerful. It's an autobiographical poem where the poet shows the loneliness and world weariness of an old man in the modern society by depicting a picture of his own father returning home from work. It draws a portrait of a suburban commuter. It depicts his dull, monotonous, exhausting, and equally pitiable daily routine. It describes a forced alienation at home which is reflected through the stale food and lack of sharing. His father refused to share their joys and sorrows with their hard-working father, who as a result is forced to retire into solitude. It is a 24-line poem divided into 2 stanzas. Now we are going to see this poem in detail, line by line. First line, my father travels on the late evening. Explanation, the poem begins with the speaker's description of his father traveling home. The father is traveling in a late evening train after finishing his work for the day. Now here the late evening, it means it indicate how long the father worked so that it regularly gets that late for him to return home. Next line, standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. Explanation, the father is standing among the silent passengers in the yellow light inside the train compartment. This line is indicative of his suffering during the journey. Generally, in Mumbai, in a local train, that you must be having a experience what is the condition in the local compartment. Means after working so hard, he is returning home standing on the footboard as he doesn't get a seat there to relax. And it is a general situation every day after the office time in Mumbai. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. This line says, the suburbs are sliding past the moving train. The poet's father has no intention to look at those. He is unmoved by these scenes, for he has seen those many times. He has seen those many times and finds nothing new or interesting in it. Means every day we are going the same route, and therefore he has no interest to see outside what is exactly new one. Because every day he finds the same things are there, therefore he doesn't have any interesting. His shirt and pants are soggy and his black raincoat stained with mud and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. Explanation, here the poet tells us that it was a rainy day. His father's dresses are all wet with the rainwater and the black raincoat is damaged with mud. The bag he was carrying was stuffed with the books and he was struggling so handle it. It gets even worse in the rainy season. The black raincoat might indicate the lack of color in his adult life. Generally, while traveling in the local trains, it is very difficult to carry our own bag, even sometimes the tiffin boxes. And it is a true, he's telling. His eyes dim by age fade homeward through the humid monsoon. Now these two lines says like that one. Now here the poet is talking about his father's age. His eyesight is dim by his old age. The father looks homeward with his low vision through the humid monsoon night. Now I can see him getting off the train like a word dropped from a long sentence. Here the poet's father gets down from the train. This is quite unique. He says that his father gets down just like a sword dropped from a long sentence. The poet indicates how unimportant his father is to the crowd in the train. It does not really make any difference whether he gets down or not. He is not that relevant to the rest of the world. Generally, from the first line that the Dilip Chitre, he has been given every moment what happens with his father after move out from his job, and the detailed description has been given about the traveling of the local trains in a big city that is Mumbai. Next lines, he hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line, enters the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud, but he hurries onward. Nearby the stations, all these things happens. He has given here after getting off the train. The father hurries towards his home. That everyone do. He crosses the grey platform and the railway line and finally enters the lane. His sticky with mud chappals can't prevent his hurrying onward. And he says that there is a dull, humid atmosphere. Grey platform and muddy streets near the station. During the rainy season, anywhere you can see, either in village area or in a city area, nearby the station, that is, you can find it out. Home again, I see him drinking weak tea, eating a stale chapati, reading a book. Here in the second stanza, the poet depicts the isolation of his father in his home. The poet sees his father reach home again like the other days. Then he sees him drink weak tea and eat a stale chapati. But here, this man doesn't have any complaint with his tea or food as he is used to it. As we see here in this line, the poet's father concentrates on reading a book while having his tea. Most of the time, whenever the person becomes old, that time that person never make any complaint with any type of the things. Either food you can take it or any day-to-day routine things are there. And it is happening with the Dilip Chitre's father. Generally happens with any old person. Now next two lines. He goes into the toilet to contemplate man's estrangement from a man-made world. Now here the speaker's father goes into the toilet with a thought of how men became isolated from the man-made world. And this line nearly sums up the theme of the entire poem. Next two lines. Coming out, he trembles at the sink, the cold water running over his brown hands. These two lines, he gives the detailed explanation about Dilip Chitre. The father comes out from the toilet and goes to wash his hands at the wash basin, and the speaker observed him trembling at the sink when the cold water was running down his brown hands. A few drops of water clinging to the grey hairs on his wrist may have some greater implication. Water generally symbolizes life and grey hairs stand for the old age. And this is generally all these things happens with a particular old person, old man. and that as a human being, what exactly we do, how we can help them, that is a very important. We should not forget our human beings. 6 lines. His sullen children have often refused to share jokes and secrets with him. He will now go to sleep listening to the static on the radio, dreaming of his ancestors and grandchildren, thinking of nomads entering a subcontinent through a narrow pass. Now the poet goes on to talk about the old man's relationship to his family members. His bad-tempered children refuse to share jokes and secrets with him. When most of the time that as a student that we should share some good things about what has happened with you. You can make them happy whenever they come back from their job. Here in the final stage of the poem where we see the father going to sleep and listening to the radio and thinking of many things like an ancestors, his grandchildren, and of the Aryans, the people entering the Indian subcontinent through the Khyber Pass in the ancient time. Thus, the poem Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre sympathizes with old neglected people in our society. No doubt his message is well delivered here. This poem has given the poetic lot of respect and popularity through all these years.